Ahoy there, me hearties! This be Captain Silver Hook, and you're listening to the Two Old Pirates podcast. Set sail for an open sea of stories, tales, and some really crazy stuff. I expect you to like and subscribe, lest you be walking the plank. Ha ha ha!
Hey, welcome to podcast episode 119 of the Two Old Pirates. I've been busy up in Corpus. Vinny's here today, so this is the first time we've probably done one in about a month and a half, something like that.
It's been a little while.
As you notice, the background, it's not all my Celtic stuff, and it's not all Vinny's stuff.
Not all my crap.
When's the last time we did one in here? This is my classroom.
It's
on a Saturday.
I would say it's probably almost been 100 episodes.
It's been quite a while. We did some pretty cool ones here. It's been at least 3 years maybe that we did one of these. But we're going to do a short one today. And as you notice, the hat is here. I just don't have it on right now.
The glasses are not.
Vinny made sure he brought his lumberjack outfit and stuff that he's known for. We're going to start probably selling these things. Yeah. I'm going to say $1,000 to $2,000 each.
Screen used props.
Yeah, absolutely.
As seen on
because there's so many of our affectionate fans, Vinny, that they want things. They've said, "Can I have your glasses?" or "Can I have the Celtic hat?" and "Can I have a small piece of the bed sheet? Can you cut it up like they did for the Beatles?" I'm like, we're just not that big yet. We've got over 1,000 followers, and to me that's amazing. But I'm not going to sell my sheet.
I'm going to be straight
with
you.
I will sell this hat autographed just for you for, I'm going to say, $500.
Reasonable.
Glasses,
look for that on Pawn Stars in a few years.
Anyway, so Vinny came down today. I had to do something at the school this morning, and we started talking about what we should do, and he came up with a really cool idea. What things do you remember when you were younger, not like as an adult, like that always like put a fear in you that you were scared of, that you had some type of phobia against, anything. And we can do movies, music, TV, anything. And so we just thought we'd just riff. We've not written any of this stuff down like sometimes we do and stuff, and we're just going to go with things. So I guess we could just bounce off of each other and just try to remember things from when you were young. We're not talking about 25. We're talking about when you're a child, teen, something like that. But still, they gave you the chills. It kind of gave you the scary stuff. Things that were just kind of spooky or something like that. Things that got to you emotionally. That maybe you look back and you're like, I was kind of dumb to be afraid of that.
That's what it's specifically something you revisit in hindsight, and you're like, why was I afraid of this?
So, anyways, what's something from your childhood or from your youth that spooked you?
The big thing for me. This is weird. The video game Maniac Mansion. It was.
What system was that on?
Most commonly here in the United States, it was on the NES. It was on the Nintendo, the original one, and it was also, I think, like Amiga. It was like the Commodore. It was on like those British computers.
So this is an '80s game.
Yeah, it got localized here. I want to say in like either 89 or 90 or so. It was kind of late in the system because it was a much nicer looking game than the first ones that came out for the system. But the whole point of the game is you play as a guy named Dave, and you pick two of his friends. And there's a big mansion, and the guy who lives there, crazy Dr. Fred, he has kidnapped your girlfriend, and it's like the 80s movie trope. He's going to suck her brains out and turn her into a zombie, and it's stupid, whatever. The whole reason this happens is because at the beginning of the game, there's like a meteorite from space like lands in their backyard, and it turns everybody in the mansion evil. So that's why they're
different.
And they have like blue skin, and they're all like, that's to separate them, to make them look evil. And you walk around in this house, and you point and click with the arrow. So when you want them to go somewhere, you click on something, and you do that with the controllers. You can't just control the guy himself directly. So there's a sense of clunkiness and like helplessness where if you want to get out of a room, you have to like move the arrow and then hit open. And so you're walking around, and it's like, as a kid, I thought like at any point,
so boom, the jump scares.
The other people that are in the mansion
are going to find you.
They'll pop up. Yeah. And then when they do that, the music changes. It gets really spooky. And then they kidnap you. They throw you in the dungeon, stuff like that. But I was always like, as a kid, I would be terrified to play this game because I was like, I'm going to go in that room.
Well, it's almost like, I mean, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's like when you're watching a movie when you're a little kid and you kind of go like this, and then you open your finger a little bit like that's going to protect you because you think you can just close it. Yeah, you're like, oh. So like he's playing a video game, he sets it down, he's all like
Yeah, it's
moves
like,
it a little bit.
But it's like I would, as a kid, I never beat the game. It's really
not
not
that
that
bad.
scary.
Yeah.
It also has an amazing
It's
soundtrack.
the perception of when you're
Yeah.
when you're young and you have the.
And you're like 6
yeah.
years old,
Yeah.
and there's these blue people that just pop up, and the music just suddenly like.
Music does a lot when
It
it
does.
comes
It's
to
the
entertainment and stuff.
atmosphere,
I was telling Vinny about when we were talking about different things like this. I was like, I remember watching the original Salem's Lot made for TV show from the Stephen King book Salem's Lot, and there's vampires, and there was no CGI back then. There was nothing like that. But I just remember the scene where there's these two boys who'd been best friends, and one of them goes missing, and that he's probably been bit by a vampire. And the little boy is staying. He's laying in bed, and next to him is like a little art piece that he's made of like a graveyard. Mm-hmm. And there's like little bitty headstones and stuff like that. And he like looks, and it's still scary to think about. I mean, I'm an old man and stuff now, but I mean, I remember it as a kid. I was like 7 watching this on national TV, mind you. There was no cable back then. This is so long ago. And he's got this big window at his bedroom, and the curtains are open, and you see this fog start coming in. And then all of a sudden you see this body start flying down, and he can see it, and it's his friend. And his friend, you can tell, is a vampire because he's got like fangs, but his eyes are like piercing red or green or something like that. He just looked very spooky. And you remember the old thing about if you lock eyes with a vampire, they take control of you. So he like locks eyes, and as he gets closer and closer to the window, he's all, "Let me in, it's me," like Mike or whatever like that. But he's singing in a hushed voice, and then when he smiles, the fangs would come out, and it just, the whole camera angles and stuff of this kid just being drawn to his best friend, but his best friend's going to kill him because he's a vampire, and all he has to do is open up that big window, and he's going to get him. And he gets closer and closer, then something happens, and he changes, and he starts walking. He's all, no, open the window, I'm your friend. And he gets closer, and when he backs up, he hits the night table, and he turns around and like looks at it, so he breaks the contact between them, and he sees a little bitty cross that's supposed to be there with the headstones, and he picks it up, and he goes like this, and the guy's all when you look back at it, it's not scary now, but as a 7-year-old, seeing the eyes and him floating, and he's like, and he's not talking like this, he's got that hushed, demonic, almost like he's all like, "Open the window, I'm here." It was very, very bone chilling at the time because you're like, don't open that window. And like I said, it wasn't on like Showtime. There's no Showtime. There's no HBO. There was no Hulu and stuff like that. It was just ABC or whatever. And have you ever seen the old Salem's Lot?
Yeah.
Remember the original vampire? He was all white and he's got those fangs.
Yeah.
He looks like a very old vampire. He was kind of spooky and stuff.
Yeah, even that.
But
Yeah.
I'm like, this kid at the window, because you're thinking, I'm a kid.
Yeah.
What about if one of my friends goes missing and
Exactly,
he
yeah.
starts knocking at the window, and you open up the things, and he's floating, and he's got these. It was the eyes, it was the whispering, it was the fog, and it was the idea that he was so close to opening up the window and he was about to die, but then he was saved with the cross, and he goes like that, and he floats away and stuff, and then of course the next day he has to tell him, "I saw my friend. He's not missing. He's a vampire," and nobody believes him. And
Yeah,
stuff, so.
of course, yeah.
Anyways.
One that comes to mind for me. This is going to sound really lame, but back in the 90s, there was a popular book series called Goosebumps, R.L. Stein, and most of them were kind of stupid. It's like young adult books you just read. It's like, oh yeah, reader beware, you're in for a scary. But most of the books were just dumb. Some of them were just bad outright. But the one that stuck with me when I was younger, that like to this day, I even still think it was actually really well executed. Stein, he had a book called Calling All Creeps, and in the story, I'll break it down. There's a kid. He goes to school. He gets teased by everybody. He's like, "Man, you're such a creep." It's like that '90s slang. You lose, you're a creep. They keep calling him that, and then he's like, "Man," he's all sad, and then he's like flipping through the newspaper. So he's looking in the classifieds, and then there's like a thing where it says like, "Calling all creeps. If you're a creep, give us a call." So, the kid, he's been like, "Well, they keep calling me that at school." So he just calls this number from like a payphone, and somebody talks to him. They answer, and he's like, "Hey, who are you?" And he's like, "We should meet up." And he's like, "Okay, fine." So he goes and meets up with the creeps, and it's a bunch of like nerdy, societal reject kids that they're all, I guess, just like him. They keep, he keeps getting called a creep. So here's a bunch of people like it. So he gets along with them, and they start talking, and then you find out that like everybody in that group is actually like secretly an alien monster, and they're trying to infiltrate the planet and stuff like that. And they're called creeps because that's like, so their little message was for them to find each other. And they realize that like he's not one of them, but they can use him.
It almost sounds like something out of Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it's like a Body Snatchers kind of thing. And then he has this moment where he's like,
I am a creep.
He's like, screw these people.
Yeah.
And
let them eat it.
He lets them do it, and
let
I'm
them
like,
eat cake.
yeah. And it ends on it. Of all the cliffhangers that Stein wrote, that's the best one because like even on the TV adaptation they made for it, the kid's like, fine, and then he steps back, and then it just ends, and I'm like, that's like when I read that, I was like 9 or something when I read that. I'm like, that's actually. Because I'm used to the point where it's like, oh yeah, here's a spooky Halloween mask. You put it on and you can't take it off and you become the monster. I'm like, yeah, that's dumb. Or it's like the ventriloquist dummy that always like just talks and does like evil things. And like this was like the one story idea that was like actually like that is genuinely frightening.
I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the podcast before, but something that changed my life literally for the rest of my life was, and you can correct me if you remember me ever telling this story, but I went to a drive-in with his mom and her boyfriend in 1978 to supposedly see a family-type movie, but in reality, my sister, his mom, had lied to our mom saying that we were going to go see this family-type movie or something, but it was the movie Halloween. The first run, 1978, we're all introduced to Michael Myers. And there's one scene of the movie where there's a girl who's inside the house and she has to go pick somebody up. So she leaves the house, she goes out to the car, she tries to open it up, and she realizes she doesn't have her keys and it's locked. So she goes back inside and she takes the keys and she's whistling the whole time and stuff. When she comes back, she tries the car again, and she tries the car door and it opens. And I'm yelling as a 6 or 7 year old, hey, it was locked. And, my sister's like, shut up. And so she opens up the car door. There's no light inside that illuminates. And she gets in and she puts the keys in the thing and she's about to start it when she looks up. The inside window is all fogged up. And if anybody's ever been in a car for a long time and kept the air conditioning off and you're talking or making out or something like that, that breath and the steam will fog up the windows. And she goes, and she's like, huh. And when she sits back, Michael Myers is in the back seat, reaches over and just devastates her, just kills her, right? And the thing is, I was like, no light came on, so she couldn't look in the back seat. So from that moment on Earth until now, I've always had it in the back of my mind. When you go to the car, when you open it up, you make sure that globe illuminates so you can go.
Yeah, Michael Myers.
I know Michael Myers ain't gonna be
He's
there.
not back there.
I know he's not gonna be there. But it was a shocking moment, like how Psycho had been for so many women back in the '60s with the shower curtain scene. That there were millions of women that later on said, "I never took a shower again with the curtain closed." I was a 7-year-old, 6-year-old boy who was like, okay, he's not back there. He's not gonna kill me today. It literally rewired my brain to sit there and think somebody could be in the back seat unless the light is on. If the light's on, you're probably fine. I don't know if I've ever told anybody this before. I've told people over the years and stuff. When I was a little kid, I had this same fear that a lot of kids do, like that there was going to be somebody in the dark, the boogeyman, somebody's going to be in your closet or something like that, and that they'll come out and get you. And my dad, being a World War II veteran and living through the Great Depression, he didn't really put up with a whole bunch of he would explain things like how a man from the 30s, 40s, 50s would explain it. He would be like, hey, bud, you don't have to worry about that. We're going to put a little night light in over here. He was like, look, this is a bunch of shit, right? And so I remember him sitting on the edge of the bed. He's all, what's wrong? I was like, Dad, when the lights go out, I can't see anything. And so there could be a boogeyman or something like that. He's all like, all right, Eric. And he should have been a psychologist or something. He's all like, look at me. When it's dark, can you see anything? I was like, no, Dad, that's why I'm scared. He's all like, so if there's something in here and it's dark, it can't see you. So it's just as afraid of you as you are as of it.
Fancy that.
So I don't want to hear any more of this shit. Go to bed. And he walked out. And I've never, from that day on, never worried about anything else being in the room.
true.
Because I was like, if there's something,
Logically-
he can't see me. Can't see me. So, anyways. You got another one?
So this is the one that kind of shared between us. The very first Resident Evil game. There was two scenes that got each of us specifically. I think I was there one of the first times you were playing it too, back in the 90s. So the one that got me is like at the beginning of the game, you know, the characters, they're going to investigate another mansion. And they go there, they get attacked by these rabid dogs. They're actually zombified dogs, but they don't know that yet. They're just like attack dogs. The helicopter pilot gets eaten and stuff like that. So then they just go into this mansion to try to be safe. And then that's where the game starts. And there's zombies. It's Resident Evil. Zombies, okay? You guys know about
For
that.
the 90s, it was an amazing.
But when you go in there and the characters start talking, they're like, well, should we split up and see if we can get, you know, what? So then,
famous, let's
yeah,
split up.
the two people, you know, they split into two groups and go their separate ways. And then you go into this one room and there's like a big dining hall and you go around. There's only a fixed place you can go at the beginning of the game. It kind of guides you there. And you go down and you find like one of the other people from your group is like laying on the floor and he's dead and there's somebody over him. And that's one of the zombies. And then they do like the big whole cut scene, CGI, close up. Looks like crap today, but in 1996, terrifying. And it like zooms in and there's just this guy that's like hunched over. You see him from the back. He's hunched over. And then I guess he's aware.
He's enjoying a meal.
Yeah, exactly. He's aware that you're in the room now. So he slowly gets up and does that thing. And his face is all screwed up. His eyes are all bloodshot and running down. And I was like, dude, seeing that reveal scared the hell out of me.
So that's probably probably something that we have in common. That he probably was a kid sitting there watching me, my girlfriend at the time, playing that, and then not understanding that we were sending him into because we were adults, you know, we're in our early 20s, and to sit there and have him be traumatized by this.
I would have been like 10
when he turns around. But when we were talking about these things, I was telling Vinny about when I first bought the game, because I only bought sports games. And so I bought this game because one of my friends was like, dude, it's zombies, you can kill them. I was like, well, freaking, let's buy it. So we bought, and when you first enter the game, if you go to the right in that very first room, you start walking by these two windows.
Yeah.
And the very first time I ever played, I was sitting there with my girlfriend, we're playing the game, and she was like, you should run down this hall. And I was like, why? There's nothing here. I'm just going to walk down to get to that door there. And all of a sudden you hear... And these Doberman zombies,
it's the dogs from the beginning of the game,
jump right in, and they start chasing you, and you don't see it. It's a jump scare that they put in there. That unless you knew it was there, everybody who's ever played the game, the first time you're like, oh wow, like that, and they go to attack you and stuff. But that was definitely one that got me the first time I played. One of the things that spooked me when I was like 12 or 13 was when they came out with the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah,
I wasn't afraid of Freddy. I thought he was actually comical in a lot of parts.
He's a funny kind
and some of the deaths were kind of dumb and stuff. But there was this one scene that I remember sitting with two of my friends. We were all like in 7th or 8th grade, and we were watching, and we're like being, you know, tough guys. This ain't scaring me. This ain't. But there's this one scene that I remember I saw, and it was just like spooky. And I looked at my friend, and he was like that, and I was like, do I tell people at school that he covered his eyes? And we're like 12 or 13. But there's a scene in the movie where he's chasing the girl, and they're in a dark alleyway, and it's at night, and I think there's like water dripping and stuff. It just has this very weird feeling to it. And as she turns around, he puts out his arms, and then they just keep going out further and further to where they can touch either side of the building in this alleyway. And he starts scratching his claws down, and they're making sparks. So his arms are like 10 feet long, and it sounds silly, but the way that he was like walking after her with that striped sweater and the hat and stuff, and then he goes, it's almost like he was enveloping her eventually. He was going to get her, and so you couldn't get away. And then all of a sudden he pulls it back, and he puts the glove to his face, and he says something like, are you scared, or something like that? And I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah,
and that moment was actually the scariest out of any of those movies. I never found any of the Nightmare on Elm Street, but that one, when he pulls it back and he goes, "Are you sure?" But he's all, and she can't escape in her dream. She's like running from him, and he's showing the arm stretching. And he's all like that, and he has this. And Robert Englund, who played the part, played it so well. He's like, "Are you scared?" And so, it was pretty scary. Also the Jaws scene when
Yes.
Quint gets bit in half. I saw that at the theaters. I was 6. You see, we got into those movies. There was no R ratings that would keep you out. There was no NC-17s. You just got to go to the movies.
You did.
And when you see Quint kicking at the shark, and the shark's just like "Arr," on the back of the boat, and then he just, and you see, and he spits up blood. I was like, and that's why I have a phobia of sharks today. Michael Myers and Jaws effed up a lot of us Gen X kids from the 70s and stuff. We saw stuff that maybe we shouldn't have seen. All right, and also I wanted to add in, do you remember when they did part 2? I don't know if we've talked about this, but they did part 2 to Wizard of Oz. It's called Return to Oz in the 80s. And there's a thing called the Wheelers. And these, we might have done this in an earlier podcast, but it's always been spooky. I remember seeing that like when I was 13 or 14. And when Dorothy goes to this one thing, these really, really sadistically scary looking people that went out, and their hands and their feet, they're bent over like, and they were called wheelers. They had wheels on their hands, and that's how they moved around. They'd come after you and stuff. If I can go ahead and get a clip and we don't get banned or anything like that or copyright infringed, I'll go ahead and add it to this, and you can see their face. And it's. Do you remember them at all? It was spooky as hell. And when I saw that, I was like, "This is dealing with Dorothy and the Tin Man and stuff. These guys are freaking psychotic looking, like freaking psychos or something." Yeah. Anyways, so for a podcast, what was this? 119. 119. Eric with the bad back and Vinny
without the glasses.
There you go.
See you.
Hope that you enjoyed this.
It'd be weird if I did.
But we'll do another one soon for you. It's the end of the year, so I'm very, very busy with school trying to get that stuff done. So we hope that you enjoyed this podcast. Don't forget, go ahead and let us know if there's anything that you remember being a kid that kind of spooked you. Was it flying cockroaches? Was it crickets outside? Was it a snake? Was it? I mean, those are all phobias and stuff. But some people don't mind cockroaches. They're like, yeah, I'll kill them and stuff. But when you bring up flying cockroaches, they'll piss their pants. So if you have any ideas, let us know. If not, just go ahead and share, and we will get back to you real soon.
See you.